So the squat is a complex exercise, difficult exercise to master for a lot of people, especially when you start looking like an overhead squat, full extension in the upper half, full flexion in the lower half. And because of it, people really struggle with it. And corrections become very difficult. It is a challenging exercise to make corrections on because it is so complex. It takes a lot of mobility, a lot of stability throughout the entire kinetic chain. One thing I find is that most people really assume they have big mobility deficits, and that's what's really forbidding them or blocking them or holding them back from a really good looking squat. Really what I find most of the time is just a bad pattern. People have enough mobility to get through the movement, they just don't know how to squat. And so their brain feels a little bit compromised, a little bit threatened by it, and so it doesn't do it efficiently. So we need to get off of those really crappy movement patterns, those bad train tracks, and get onto the really good movement patterns, the good train tracks, and remap the system a little bit. So one of my favorite ways to do that with the squat is by reverse patterning. Greg Cook talks a lot about reverse patterning as one of his favorite corrective strategies, and it's just this idea that if something doesn't go well, try reversing it, doing it the opposite way you think, and it almost always gets better. And so it really makes sense with the squat. One of the things I talk a lot about with the squat is just this idea that, you know, for the first time in your life, you learned how to squat from the bottom up. You crawled over to something, you pulled yourself up to it, and you stood up. But yet later in life, we try to teach you how to squat from the top down. It just doesn't make sense because neurologically, that's not how we learn. We learn from the bottom up, not the top down. So whenever I'm teaching the squats, whether it's because of a crappy movement pattern, or especially I've got like a post-surgical patient that's really struggling to try to relearn it, I always go bottom up. So a couple different strategies we can take with this. Number one is we can do a lying reverse squat, where basically I have somebody lay on their back and they're going to pull their knees up, and I grab the tops of their feet, and they're going to pull their knees up towards their chest. And they're basically just trying to pull themselves into a deep squat. So feet a little wider than shoulder width, ankles dorsiflex, and actively pull themselves into that deep squat. I don't care how they straighten back out. We're just looking, can they pull themselves up into that movement pattern? So that's one strategy, basically reverse pattern it that way. Next one would just be a bottom up box squat. So I've got a box here. It's set up pretty high, but this would be an example like a post-surgical. I wouldn't challenge a lot of flexion for them. So I would start here with it pretty high. And what I do is I don't care how they sit down. I just want to get them here, get their feet evened up a little wider than shoulder width. Now they're going to have to get their weight over their feet, so they're going to lean forward just a little bit. So they lean forward and then they stand up out of it. And so when they stand up out of it, they'll almost always have a great looking squat. Then I tell them, again, I don't care how they get down here, just go ahead, lean forward, stand up, and then we come back to it. So the idea is we're always working the bottom up. That's my emphasis, is what does it look like from the bottom up of that squat? Once they groove that 10, 15, 20 times, they start to look good, then we can start going top down to the box. And what you'll find is people learn it a lot more efficiently, and those bottom up squats always look better than they would from the top down. So another strategy I really like to utilize is with the TRX. So I'll take my TRX suspension trainer, and basically on the way down, I don't care how they get down there. Same thing again. I'm going to drop down into it. So here I am in the bottom. I like to stomp around a little bit, get comfortable, get my feet set where I want them, a little wider than shoulder width, toes straight ahead. And then I pull myself over my feet till my hands are underneath my chin. And I come up until I have a flat back, and there's the bottom of my squat right there. There from here, I can use my hands and help myself up out of it. So the whole idea, again, I'm dropping down, don't care how I get down here, just get comfortable. A lot of people have not explored this range of motion very much, so they're not used to it. So they get here, and then I find that good position. Now I pause here to mentally figure out where I want to be at the bottom of the squat, and then I work it from the bottom up. So if you start using some of these strategies to work that squat in a reverse pattern, what you'll find is that people can squat a lot more efficiently, a lot more quickly, and we start to groove that advantageous pattern, that good pattern that we want to see, and we'll start to clean up those squats really quickly.